Evening, everyone. It's 7:04 p.m. in New Canaan, Connecticut. This is July 12th, a public forum on the federal ARPA funds Canaan is going to receive. And this is designed to be a listening session. The Tourism and Economic Development Committee, chaired by Tucker Murphy, our Administrative Officer, and Lauren Pattison, President and CTO of the Canaan Community Foundation, and Laura Budd, the Executive Director of the Canaan Chamber of Commerce, are leading this tonight. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Kevin Moynihan, First Selectman for Canaan. And as you know, read the newspapers, press reports, that Canaan is getting $6 million over 2 years of federal ARPA funds, Rescue Act funds, which are designed to help local communities recover from COVID. And what we wanted to do to begin a process tonight, and this is just the beginning, is to begin to assess community needs in the nonprofit and business community area. Tomorrow night, the Board of Finance will have a regular meeting, and we'll be discussing ARPA funds in the context of governmental needs. And the Town Council will be taking this up as well. So we don't know exactly what the process will be, but we want to begin to assess local needs. So I think that's all I want to say. Tucker, you want to make a few remarks, and then Laura and.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Other than this is going to be a process, and it'll be an interesting one, and we're looking to get everybody's input along the way. This is just a starting point. There's going to be the town bodies will weigh in. Everybody will have a chance. So it was a perfect marriage, if you will, to get all three organizations together along with the town to hear everybody. So take notes.
Sure. Also, I would just say welcome from the Community Foundation perspective. We're obviously particularly interested in our nonprofit sector, but that crosses over a lot into local economic development and a lot of human service and other issues in town. So we're really just pleased to hear some initial ideas through an online form that we sent around, and then hear more tonight. And as Kevin said, just be part of the process in the next weeks and months to come.
Laura.
Well, welcome from the New Canaan Chamber of Commerce and the business community as a whole. We see this as a really interesting proposition that, can some of these funds help do things in our downtown area that will be great for everyone. We're unfortunately not in a position to hand out grants to different businesses, but we are in a position to look at how some of these funds can fuel downtown and increase interest and bring more people into town, which will help everybody. Rising tide floats all boats.
And I should emphasize that this was not designed to be a public forum at this point. The chamber invited the business community, Lauren invited the nonprofit sector, and specifically we're looking for those two constituencies. Give us their views as to what the needs are for nonprofits in the business community. There will be opportunity for public forums and public hearings going forward with the other town bodies. So with that, Tucker, why don't you?
Yep, just giving someone the meeting ID. There's always somebody who needs the meeting ID, even though the link is there. The four of us met today to talk a little bit about how tonight would go, and I know several of you submitted already. We had forms asking you all to flesh out your ideas a little bit more. Lauren received them all and seems to have them. So I think what I'd like to do, Lauren, is have you then take this portion of it, since you've got them all divided up and that kind of thing, and we'll go from there and then open it up to anybody who wants to share ideas with us.
Yeah. And sort of what we heard and what we talked about earlier today, and in preparing for this meeting, was two different things. One were ideas or concerns that local nonprofits had that would be about making them whole, kind of recovering really from the negative impact of the pandemic on them financially, on the services they could provide, and so on. And then others were really forward-looking. What were some investments that could be made that really had a return on investment? This is where we saw a lot of things crossing into economic development ideas, and I think we'll talk first about some of the kind of making whole concepts, and then go to the more kind of creative investments, because I think then that will tee off nicely into more kind of local business development ideas. So at this point, I mean, I've got ideas that folks submitted, but really wanted to open it up to have more of a discussion, because I feel like for folks in the room and those who are joining us on Zoom, it will spark ideas to hear what others are also thinking about. or ways that the pandemic has impacted different organizations. So I would open it up first to kind of concepts around kind of making whole or recovering, particularly as nonprofit organizations from the pandemic, and then we can get into some more forward-looking items.
And if you are going to speak, it would be great if you could go over to the mic, because I've got a computer there, and then everybody at home on Zoom can also hear from you. So anybody here that might have submitted something or has an idea, feel free to step up, or we can. Tom's getting comfortable there. And just be careful. I know we've got some cords around.
Russ, the laptop there will pick up.
Yep. Your
There-
voice.
There you are.
Yeah.
I don't think, does he have to speak into that microphone?
No, he does not have to speak into the microphone. You can adjust the camera a little bit. There you go.
Is that
Perfect.
better? Yeah.
Perfect.
This will pick you up here.
Yep.
So it's designed.
Don't even worry about that mic.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for holding this session. I know that New Canaan as a town and as a community under Kevin's leadership and Selectmen's leadership has done a terrific job when it comes to COVID and the way that the community has reacted to the pandemic. And we're very, very proud as a community of how we've responded to that crisis. Waveney Life Care Network played a critical role in that effort. And we have submitted an application not to kind of be reimbursed for the effort that we have, but to look forward and to look at how we could, as a community, invest in the healthcare and the wellness of our community going forward. And I think it's very, very important that we take some of those dollars. I understand there is a difference of opinion of funding some of the charter, if you will, for the town, but also reinvesting it. And with our, not only our community support, but our really expertise in healthcare, which covers a wide span from dementia to psychiatry to behavioral health to seniors, but also to those children that may need help and support, that we can set up a structure, if you will, and use the technology that's available to all of us to really address those healthcare needs in a very proactive way. I'm proud to also sit as a commissioner on the Health and Human Services Department. So I see what their needs are, and I like to look forward. And I think as a community, if we can take the technology that's available to us right now, and we can look forward and project what the needs of the community will be from not only behavioral health, developmentally disabled children, but also those that find themselves isolated as a senior population, we really can invest and become a healthier community. And so our application and our process is really focusing on our community and looking at a private community sponsorship that we can work together collaboratively to raise, as was mentioned before, all ships in our area. So we are interested in collaborating with others that are in the community, setting up a 1-800 number or 1-900 number that people can call in if their needs are met, and really augment in a private public partnership those needs and services that are required today and in the future. Telehealth, telemedicine is a great technology if used correctly. And I think we can take our great physicians that are in New Canaan, focus the attention on New Canaan and those high-risk individuals, and really invest in it. We're not looking to do it by ourselves. We're not looking to stand alone. We very much would like to partner, Little P partner, with all the organizations, including Silver Hill and others in the Health and Human Services Department, to really come together and find out how we can improve the health of the community. So that's what our application was about. It was not about Waveney. It was not about the town. It was about all the residents of the town that find themselves at risk and really could use our help. So I thank you all for this opportunity, and thank you all.
Thank you, Russ.
Patricia, I see you raised your hand. Did you want to talk?
Yes, please. Thank you, Tucker. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right, great. So those of you who don't know me, hello, I'm Patricia Spugani. I'm a volunteer with the Town Players of New Canaan, which is, hopefully you all know, but it's the nonprofit community theater in town. I lead community engagement and fundraising, as well as designing the lighting for the Town Players productions. We are definitely, to Lauren's question, we are definitely looking forward from the town's perspective and our perspective to contribute to the arts in our community. We strongly believe that having a vibrant theater and community theater in our community will help in the fostering the engagement and good feelings about living in New Canaan. We were forced to close our doors completely on March 8th in 2020, which happened to be the last performance of Rocket Girl, which I know many of you saw. And while the theater remained physically closed during the pandemic, we were one of the first theaters in the area to live stream several shows, of course under strict CDC guidelines, and we also did broadcast several radio shows. But as much as we tried to make up for lost revenue, we lost an entire season of ticket sales. So as we are an all-volunteer theater, we were also shut out of possible state and federal shuttered revenue or Save Our Stages assistance because they required at least one paid employee. And as an all-volunteer organization, we were not eligible. So we did miss out on potentially thousands of dollars of grants that other Fairfield County community theaters were able to benefit from. So we would greatly benefit from any assistance, again, looking forward to helping us close the gap on increased production costs for our upcoming season, which is our 75th season, believe it or not. And that's beginning with On Golden Pond, which is opening August 13th. So I think we are planning a full season of 5 main stage shows. We're actively working on auditioning and building our production team for each of our shows. Having additional funds would help us promoting the theater, promoting the value of the theater to the community, and helping to just bring New Canaan back to its, all its social engagement. So I thank you for the opportunity to addressing the team here.
Thank you, Patricia. Anyone else on the Zoom or anyone here wish to?
May I add something to what Patricia has just said? I'm Kathleen Davidson, and I'm on the board at that Town Players of New Canaan, that all-volunteer theater company. And tagging on to what the previous speaker said, we also, some of our very best audience are the seniors around town. They come faithfully and have done for years, and we're also working to continue our engagement with children. So we aim to provide entertainment and education to both ends of the age spectrum of our residents and area audience, as well as just the ordinary audience, the ordinary theater goers. Thank you.
I see Barbara Leonarducci on there too from Silver Mine. I don't know if Barbara want to mention anything.
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Good, how are you? Sorry to put you, I know you had thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I do. I just turn the video on here for a second. I again, thank you for letting us submit our ideas. I agree. I think ours was application really was addressing not just the recovery aspect, but looking forward. Silvermine is next year approaching its centennial, and there aren't many organizations, I think, in New Canaan that can say it's been around for 100 years. And we have. And if you know anything about our organization, we've had a very long, prestigious history. And we we're an organization that actually remained open during the pandemic. So we were only shuttered for 3 months at the beginning, and we reopened last June, and we have been trying to keep our nose above water this past year. We were able and eligible to get the PPP funding and also grants from the New Canaan Community Foundation. Thank you, Lauren, so much for that as well. But you know, at the end of we just closed our year, and at the end now we're going to be underwater, I think, again a bit. But I think it's just an opportunity for us, you know, to have the whole town of New Canaan talk about revitalization of the arts in town. And, you know, we in particular, our campus, and really make it, you know, a prestigious area for people to come to. We've needed, you know, a capital campaign to go on in our organization, and we've begun that as we move into our 100th year, and we would really love it to have the input of the town to look forward to the next 100 years and what Silvermine can do, you know, in planning for that. So our application was sort of, yes, it helped us in recovery, but funds like that would also then be able to be matched and leveraged for the next 100 years here in New Canaan.
Great, thanks. I don't know if we could add, I know New England Dance Theater had some thoughts as well, and New Canaan Museum and Historical Society, but there was certainly a theme that came up around arts and culture organizations. These were organizations, obviously, that really rely on ticketed events and exhibits and so on, and had some significant losses, but also had creative ideas about investing in kind of arts and culture, tourism and district in New Canaan.
Everyone like to speak? Ted, you want to say a few words?
Hi, Ted Thomas from New England Academy of Dance and New England Dance Theater. And what we did after the pandemic, as soon as we came back after the 3 months, we tried, it was around graduation time, it was around our seniors were moving on and we wanted to give them something. So we went to the high school and got their portable stage and built it in the back. And we noticed after doing that, we were able to bring people out in a safe environment and have them put on a concert and people talk and come together and we have community bonding. And the idea came to me when I saw this grant bringing Canaan together, that we don't have a lot of events in town that kind of bring people together like the Downtown Stanford organization has. Little concerts from different, you know, venues, people, performers. We have a lot of great performers in town. We have a lot of dance schools. We have a lot of drama schools. We have a lot of different people who will get up and present on stage. And you can actually take an area like the municipal parking lot, build a little stage, and have a nice performance and charge to bring money back in for different organizations. Now, with the Masons, I'm also one of the New Canaan Masons, and we have a pancake breakfast every year. And we take the money and we give it to the Get About. So we can do things like that, present a little concert, and take organizations that are in need and take some of the money from their investment from a small staging thing and give it to some of the organizations that are in need at the time. Now, the same thing I'm talking about is they come in modules, 4x8 modules, and you clip them together and they survive the rain, and it's a low budget type of production. It's not like, you know, it's like I love what they do in New Canaan Summer Theater. It's amazing, it's like huge, but it's not sustainable to move around and put in different parks and stuff like that. Now today, with today's technology, you have portable electricity, you have all kinds of different things that you can do to create an event in one of New Canaan's many beautiful parks. Have people come over, have the event for a particular reason, maybe a particular not-for-profit. So that was my proposal, that we can bring the arts community together. We can have the dancers from all the different schools actually dance together and watch their friends dance, you know, or some of the singers, some of the bands that student dance and the kids from School of Rock. Put on a nice little
Sort of like the
concert.
holiday stroll show.
Oh, that was in my proposal too. Right, because they build a little stage in the holiday stroll.
We own it, we own it.
Yeah, and something like that, you can just kind of put it together as modular. We can make it bigger one year, smaller one year.
Explore. That's just something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my proposal. I think that we could use something like that in town and sometimes have bigger events that can draw in revenue and pay for itself, and pay for its things, and actually contribute money to some of the not-for-profits and some of the in-need organizations, and have smaller events for local people to just kind of like get together and have some food and fun.
Thank you. Margaret.
Hi, I'm Margaret Riley. I'm the Executive Director of the New Canaan Y, and you'll be surprised you asked the for one proposal, and we gave you two. Both, I think, though, are consistent with our mission, would help us to service the community with respect to youth development and social responsibility. The first one contemplates an expansion of our current child care program. I think everyone in town is aware that there is a dearth of child care availability in town. We have a lot of preschools that give service between the hours of 9 and 12 or 9 and 2, but only the WISE facility is one that sends children between 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. We have children as young as 6 weeks of age in our program, and we go up to after school care for students in grade 6. We are currently exploring repurposing a space that we didn't touch during our most recent renovation to adopt it for childcare use. The intention would be that we would have our older students, the after-school students, move to that new space, and then we would expand that front of the building space that we currently use for childcare to allow us to take more young children. We've seen a real influx in young families to town. We're seeing that in our membership currently. And we think with this new program, we could accommodate as many as 24 additional infants and toddlers and 10 additional after-school students. The WISE program is not only unique in the hours that we can accommodate, but because the children who come to our programs have the entire WISE facility available to them. So those children who come, grow up, and learn to swim while they're there in childcare. They get to use the WISE gym and the bouncing bear facility and participate in programs. We also, because of the age range that we accommodate, many children, many families have more than one child in our program at a time, which is a great help to parents when you come up today. I realized recently, and I'm new to the Y, and I realized that there are a great many children in New Canaan who really are Y kids. They come to us as 6-week-old children, and then they stay through Y Ball and Adventure Guides and all of our programs. And it's really a special place where they have a true sense of belonging. So our ability to offer that to more children in this town would really be wonderful for us, the town's considerations for supporting this. The second proposal we had to do with our intention to increase make more green our facility. We're working with the same consultant that the town used with respect to its solar programs and cogen use and CHP use. And so we've already begun to investigate that and realized that through that process, we could acquire generators that would enable the Y to act as a town emergency shelter. I think not all CHP units have that capability, but I understand from our consultants that we can acquire those that can do that. We'll be able to switch off the grid fairly seamlessly and provide the town not only warming and charging and shelter, but showers. And that's really our unique space in terms of our ability to do that. As the town knows, we've acted as an emergency shelter before, twice, I believe, during hurricanes. And we've done that though by transporting a diesel generator, a large diesel generator to our facility. Not only is that expensive, but you can't count on availability for them. And then even when you do transport it and put it in place, you need to be able to refuel it. And if the weather is bad, you might not get one in the first place, then you might have difficulty doing it. So having a CHP system that can act as a generator always on site would give us that great availability to just quickly turn into a shelter. It's cleaner, it's quieter, it would really be a great asset for the town. So I hope that you'll consider both those proposals, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
12 people already.
Yep. Right. Anybody else that's sitting in front of us have any other thoughts?
So we've been focusing on the nonprofits.
Right.
Are we going to separately then address what
Businesses?
kind of things downtown we could do to support local businesses?
Well, I think we talked about some of this stuff. We've recently met with some real estate brokers and posed a question. What can the town do? How can we break down barriers so we make brokers' lives easier? The issue of parking always comes up, and I don't know if there's any opportunity to expand any of our business parking, especially over in the Locust area. We're good over on Center School, so always looking at new opportunities there. We really opened up the concept of how important the linchpin of everything was employee parking. And then the other thing is what's going to happen with the movie theater and how we can a revitalized movie theater that becomes an additional cultural hub is going to be very key. I may have just talked myself out of an office because someone may come in there and want the upstairs space, but I'd willingly give it up. We had great movies running all the time and opportunity for author talks, partnering with Elm Street Books. I think it's really important to draw people from outside the community here. And I think that would be the linchpin of the whole operation. So those were just the two big ideas. Obviously, the businesses weather different storms, different, very seasonal. COVID hit each business very differently. But I think, the town really showed a willingness to think about the business district as a whole, not just downtown and those are our businesses. It's all part of our community. I think the work that this team did to put barriers up and allow for outdoor dining. And I think we've entered a new era where we really realize how interwoven we all are. And so I just think anything we can do to help attract more people to town. We have so many great assets. So
I put another plug in just for what the movie theater revitalization of the movie theater could do for the entire downtown. I mean, we know they closed because of COVID, and so certainly for those of you that haven't been following along as closely as we are, there's lots of documents that we've been reading about eligibility, what these funds can be used for and that kind of thing. And as far as I can see, something like movie theater it's kind of a given, right? It's exactly what, there's many different areas that we could put these funds towards, but I think the movie theater would be one that would help all of the businesses in the downtown and the community. So,
and it's why 10, 15 years ago, the town bought the building because they realized how important that was to the community. So we want to continue to honor it and bring it up a level, attract a good operator.
And just to bring people up to date, we've owned the theater for how many years now? 15 years or so. And we've never really invested in upgrading it, including ADA compliance. And so we are developing a capital plan to make the improvements we need to do to bring it up to speed. And so we're more than likely going to be engaging in a multi-month rehab. Then we have operators who are interested in operating the theater, and I think we should be back to business by maybe the first quarter of next year. It's going to be, but that benefits most of downtown, bring people into town for restaurants and exposure to retail windows. Another, subject which we are talking about, probably the biggest economic factor coming into town right now is the new library. And on planning and zoning will finalize probably their approval process for the library, and the town is already at $10 million, but I think we're going to have to perhaps step up and make that yet happen with some additional funds. I think town funding bodies are pretty much behind that. So
The downtown business community was also invited, Laura, invited everybody to join us. Hopefully they're all getting ready for sidewalk sale. But we will, they're another group that you really have to sort of hand-to-hand combat. You have to really sit down with them and draw them out. So we intend to have some additional meetings with them to get some more ideas. Laura and I went over and visited, there's a woman that runs the economic development department over in Norwalk. And I mean, she's got a team of 6 people as part of her staff over there. And she had some great ideas for some matching grants and things like that that would be available to small businesses. So we're going to look more into that to see, again, it's all about this eligibility. And I see that our CFO is on the call as well with us, Monty. He's going to help us make sure that all of this gets done properly in the paperwork and reporting and all of that, because that will obviously be a factor. That's it on my end. Yeah, Leah, good.
I don't know. I'll jump in and put my 2 cents on record.
Go for it.
I'm Leo Carl.
are you here as a businessman or?
I'll put on all hats.
You got a lot of hats,
Business
Leo.
person, volunteer, and often the nonprofit sector.
All right.
So I'm really here just to say, I know this is, we're really fortunate as a community that we had leadership that has planned and kept our town financially stable for through some tough times. The last couple of years have been really challenging. I'm also really proud of how the town rallied around itself for COVID. All the nonprofits pitched in, the local businesses did a lot. And I think we were fortunate to be in a state that took it seriously and sort of addressed the virus and the threat head on. Our health system was taxed. Our first responders and public services were taxed, but we really fared as a community really well. And then as a follow-on, the community really embraced the fact that we had a vaccine that was available, and everyone came out, rolled up their sleeves and got the vaccine for the vast majority of people. And that's made a big difference. So I think we've returned to a much better semblance of everyday life than a lot of places have been able to do. And we have each other to thank for that, which is great. When it comes to this specific chunk of money coming into town, I think that this is one of those maybe rare times when you might be able to have it all, because we have had good, sound financial management, and our compliments to our Board of Finance, who's worked really hard in every town department over the last couple of years to keep budgets relatively balanced. And we have a decent rainy day fund. We have pensions that are funded at probably one of the best levels in the state. We have a really strong local nonprofit community that comes together, and we have our own community foundation, which is a great funder of those organizations. And we have a business community that definitely has some gaps right now. Local businesses on main streets across the country in small towns have been suffering acutely as we've gone through COVID, and a lot of our national economy has moved to online transactions versus storefront transactions, and that's every town is wrestling with that. And I think we need to figure out how we invest in our incredible quintessential New England village of New Canaan and make it available for the emergent business needs of the next 10, 20 years. And I think maybe this grant, these funds coming down from federal to state to the town is a good way to think about that. We can, definitely reinforce any of the finances in town if we need to, but a significant capital project like reinventing the movie theater, I'd love to incorporate. I know that mainstream first-run movie theaters really want it to be a full-time movie theater, but there are some theaters I've seen where in addition to the screen, there's a small stage that you can have some performances in that theater space and off times. And like Ted's dance idea, you could have a venue that would bring a lot of people to downtown, enhance restaurant use, like in general, other organizations that do anything around the performing arts. If there was that space available, even if it was part-time, it could be a great win-win. And I think New Canaan could easily support a non-traditional frontline theater in that way. I love the wise idea of expanding childcare, because I think for local businesses, there's probably opportunity with childcare. I know I've had employees that have had to try to really figure out how to arrange for childcare, and having something available in town could be a real plus. And I think this year, coming up with the change in school hours next spring, there could be even more needs for certain families around the fringes, which the Y can help support. And then for Russ went over for Waveney, I think I've spent the last 3 or 4 years working with Community Foundation around a whole issue around behavioral health and how many organizations in town support the behavioral health needs of the community. And we have incredible resources, but they're not always readily recognizable, or what people that are in need don't really know when or how to access them. So through that committee, we've had the idea of having sort of a navigator position where we can have a local resource available to residents to be able to contact or reach out to get connected to all the different services that are available. And coming out of COVID, there's been a tremendous amount of mental, behavioral health, mental stresses, just stress on everyday life. Isolation's been tough. We have that. We have a great town health and human services department. We used to have a full-time nurse through that. I understand some funding's been cut back, but Russ had a great idea. Waveney has just acquired a visiting nurse and hospice of Fairfield County, plus Waveney has its own really vibrant, growing home healthcare business. We have professional nursing staff, and there might be a way to tap a position that would be staffed through the town, but funded by Waveney. And we could set up even if it was a pilot for like 3-year period, but some of the funds could really help set New Canaan apart in terms of public health. COVID was a public health issue, and there's certainly ways that we could better position ourselves to not only be healthier moving forward as a community, but better able to respond to things. And through that nurse position, we could there's great advances through telehealth that have really accelerated through COVID as the world went home, and basically hospitals had to deal with how do we treat health issues, emergent health issues, without having to come into a big institution. There's some really sort of cutting edge telehealth opportunities potentially out there that we might be able to create a model community here in New Canaan that could allow anyone from special needs children with comorbidities to seniors to anyone recovering from an illness to be connected to that town nurse through our local healthcare providers, doctors. We have a lot of dependent concierge doctors locally, plus both Stanford and Norwalk Hospital have a really big presence locally. So I guess I'm just stating maybe the obvious, but there's a lot of ways to connect the dots on this and make some really impactful investments that could benefit the town for years to come. And I think that would be my suggestion, is that we survived COVID well. We certainly had some lost revenue in certain aspects, but from what I understand, we gained extra revenue in other aspects, like real estate transfer taxes have been up a lot. So our net revenue to the town has fortunately been pretty. So I think the prospect of, if it's $2-3 million tranches over the next few years, that's a way to invest in some of these concepts or ideas that were brought forth that would be really productive for the town. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anybody else?
I want to, well, Dan, I just want to follow up, Margaret, on the childcare piece, because that was something that when TDAC was formed almost 2 years ago now, we looked at a lot. And we did a lot of research, and we'd heard that, you know, there was a lot of difficulty getting your kids into infant, especially the infant programs. And at that time, our research really told us that maybe the demand wasn't quite as much as people were saying. There was definitely a frustration level, but we found that parents, dual working parents tended to maybe want to have a nanny at home who could help with driving and that kind of thing. However, I think that's all changed with all the new families that have moved to town. I think there's probably a lot more demand now than we even can imagine for, and I think, Leo, your point about any change in the start times, there's going to be more need for that kind of thing. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I can add that the Y has had a wait list, right? That number is in the tens, 50 people on the wait list at any point in time.
Right.
And we've had that wait list for a decade.
Yeah.
So it's a long-standing, consistent need in town.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Mulhern. Was a business owner in town and I'm executive with major retail companies. One thing I would just love us as a town and a community to think about is really spend time working with the retail, restaurants, the downtown, the vitality of our town. To me, that's why people walk through town and say, I love this community, because it's how it feels. It's the energy of the community coming together. It's dining, shopping, just walking the streets. And I think you said it well, Leo, it's just, there's so much opportunity. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of retailers, they're just trying to stay on top of their business every day. They're not the ones that are really thinking high level. How do I need the help? What does it look like? But I think there's enough individuals in this room and within the community that would sit down with a couple of key players and try to extract what do they need. And as I came here tonight, I thought of a couple ideas. Is there a way to have some type of program where they get rewarded when they hire people from our community? Is there some kind of credit back to their property taxes? And it may be just their individual, I think it's called property tax on their equipment in their business, or the person who does make that investment to hire somebody who's from our community. Making that goal to hire from within. What is the reward program for these companies to get a part of this effort, this one-time effort? And I think we just have to think long and hard on how can we get a portion of these funds funneled into the vitality of our town. And when I drive through town, I went through it again the other day, and I look up and I come down, and it was like, oh man, I'm disappointed. And I know that there's so many things we can do, and there are very little things that we can do that would make a big difference. And I will volunteer my services to sit down with different business owners, and I know we can get a lot more volunteers to come up and bubble up a couple true ideas that are formidable, actionable, and would make a difference for them and make a difference for the community.
Are you talking about physical structure, sidewalk revitalization or individual buildings? It's so hard because they're so.
It's brick and mortar, help them whether they need to be successful within their own four walls. And then there's things that we can do within our responsibility as a community, as a downtown, as a town. Because I do see them both. I know I've spoken to you about certain things. But I think it's all the little things that add up that people walk through a town and say, wow, this is a really great town. The community feels good. There's some kind of buzz. We have that buzz, but I think we just need to revitalize those. I know I'm focusing on retailers and restaurateurs. They're the ones that have been hurt the most because they didn't have the same revenues they had before. They need to reestablish themselves. And we also have to bring them along in the 21st century. And some of them are still very dated. What can we do to maybe help them? Maybe we can work on doing like a group thing to help them come up with their own website so they can elevate their online business to make it easier for their customers. Maybe there's somebody who's doing it already within the downtown community. If we highlighted them and said, it didn't cost them a lot, this is what they do, and this is what they generate from it, they would say, you know what, I want to give it a try. And maybe that's where subsidy comes in to help them develop another avenue to get them. Carl, or Leo, I love the idea when you brought up the downtown theater is the heart of the town. It would be a shame if we never embraced it and took this opportunity to invest in the physical plant. We started out the meeting by talking about community foundation, retail, and the town coming together. To me, that is what the town's all about. It's coming together. I love to see some of the presentations, happen at the theater. And it could be everything from books to just great, knowledge and presentation to groups of individuals that sing, dance. And we talk about a place where people want to come together to be a part of our town. That is given to me.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mission control over here.
I'll set up.
Anybody else? I think the retail piece, Dan, I think is a really good one. I mean, I know over the years we've run a lot of programs, and actually last year during COVID, I think one of the greater, it comes back to sort of the community again, was we had a lot of professionals who offered their expertise to consult on a one-to-one, no-cost basis with a lot of the businesses. And people did take us up on it. We hoped more would, but that's the kind of thing that what you're talking about is just ushering them along, liaisoning with them, doing what you need to do to help them move things forward. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, anybody else at home? I don't see any hands raised. If there's anybody that wants to speak, you're welcome to jump in at this point in time. We haven't already done so. Let's see. Oh my God, to see if we've covered everything.
I've added about $15 million to it.
Tucker, I would just add, combining nonprofit and the business community together. Every time I drive by a vacant storefront, I think to myself, as a nonprofit, that's one less sponsor of a school play or a theater or
Yeah.
like. And if you think about over the history in New Canaan, how many the business community supports the nonprofit community and vice versa. And so we do have to, and the business community is sort of two tiers. You've got the landlords that own the building, and then the entrepreneurs that open a business, especially in a retail storefront. And to the degree it takes a lot of parts to put together to make it all work. And it also takes the consuming public to patronize those storefronts. And yes, we've all become accustomed to ordering stuff online, but to the degree we can figure out how to transact more business on Main Street and Elm Street, would be better off. So it may take some collaboration between residents coming together and saying, I wish we had this in town, and then entrepreneurs saying, I could fill that need. And then I don't know how the town fits into it, but it is a jigsaw puzzle, and it's not any one thing, but it's a bunch of dominoes that when they're standing up and all working together, it all works. And when they start to fall down, it falls apart a bit. So and we're probably a little bit on that side of it right now. But
one of the work streams that TDAX, we've got a subgroup that's working on now is, as you might know, we conducted a market demand study back in 2010, 9, or somewhere in there when the world was coming apart. And we're going to look at it again and see what's still, relevant, what we might be able to utilize. And if there's an opportunity for us to look into something similar to that again in terms of getting some advice, but I think this group will come up with some ideas. I always say, Leo, it's put your money where your house is, right? It's the classic multiplier effect. By supporting your local businesses, they support your kids' sporting events, which then supports your municipality, and it's a perfect world when it works. So.
I would just say economic development is great. It's something that we wake up and think about for our small town. And we love the YMCA, and they talk about their delays and and the waiting list they have. We have a 6.5-year waiting list for seniors right now to go into the care center for those that want to come in there. So when we talk about the monies that were spent, you know, and I take a little bit of exception to the retail that was hit hardest. You had, for my 600 employees and my 600 volunteers that stayed open 24/7 during the pandemic, it hit us very, very hard, and it hit our seniors very, very hard. So I take a little bit of exception when you talk about just children. You know, we need to also talk about our seniors in our community and the services that they need to stay here with all the tax laws being against them. One of 13 states that still have Social Security taxes applied to them. So I would just ask that we have a little bit of a balance adjustment to that. I agree the YMCA is wonderful, but when I hear things that just about the children, you know, we have a very strong populace that votes on senior issues, and we need to talk about that community and what isolation meant to them, okay, what anxiety meant to them, and the amount of taxes that they paid over time and the voting population that they have. So I would just advocate for them and just say that for those of us that work 24/7 and on behalf of our 600 employees and 600 volunteers, it needs to be a balance.
No, I
Economic
agree.
development is something that needs to be at the forefront every single day. To me, this is a great opportunity to look at return on investment for an investment in specific areas. I agree there are great areas that we should focus on. Let's not, you know, take our eyes off the senior population that have meant so much to this community over the years.
And I take your point, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I would say that sort of back to the theater concept. I mean, the theater could be a great place for seniors to be able to come on Tuesday mornings, you know, or Thursday mornings and have a program that's just for them. And the whole behavioral health piece also certainly factors in with the seniors. But I agree. I mean, thank goodness for staying put, and our great Health and Human Services Department over here for being in touch with all of them during COVID, because that was a tough time for those that really had to hunker down and couldn't go anywhere. So we should not forget that. Appreciate that. So,
Well, we started the program. This is the beginning of a process. And so we will remain open to ideas. As I said, the Board of Finance and the Town Council are going to be involved in the process. And we'll have a public forum. This was designed specifically for nonprofits and local business. But, it's clear COVID created needs in the Cape, and we just got to figure out and identify those needs. So
great.
thank you all for coming tonight, and
All right.
we'll look forward to engaging in the process the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have to open up Main Street.